So I'm about to split this in half, and as you can see it splits in two different places here, but we're only interested in the shifter part of it, which is right here. So this goes to your shift lever. This is the input shaft, so this is where the secondary clutch goes on. So that's your input shaft. And down here, this half, this is the plate that goes to the back drive shaft, and then this here goes through the motor to the front drive shaft. So this here would have a gear on it, and there'd be another gear going the other way meeting it at a square angle. So really this lower half, we don't have to take anything out of that. So up here there's going to be a shift drum and probably forks that move the gears back and forth to put it in high range, low range, or reverse. So now anytime you're prying some kind of a housing apart, usually they have a nice little spot where you can put a screwdriver in to pry. Usually you forget a bolt. So look it over very carefully that there's no bolts in it. This here might cause it to stick together, so I might have to hammer that sleeve out of there, because it does separate right through this section here. Yeah, remember what I said about make sure there's no bolts? Well, when you look at this quick, it looks like, oh, you just pulled a bolt out from this side, but no, there's a bolt from that side. So I was trying to pry that off. There's one of these each side here, so you gotta look out for stuff like that. And there's the inside. So that's your shift drum, and these are the forks. Okay, so as you turn this, it on that gear right there rotates this, and then these shift forks have a pin in the end, and they follow the drum, which moves them side to side, and it moves these gears in and out to change where they meet up. So these two shafts, that's like your input shaft and say your output shaft, which connects to this end. These two gears run together, and depending on which gears are meshed together at the time, that will give you low range, high range, and reverse. Just like that. So here's what's going on here. This gear here is your low range gear, so whenever it's in low range, it pushes this gear down into this, locks this big gear solid to this shaft, okay? Now the input shaft is a smaller gear, so this is the smaller one here. So when it's in low range, this small gear is free rolling. As you can see, it turns the shaft. So the shaft is turning the small gear. This is locked into the gear, so it locks the big gear to the shaft. So the small gear is turning the big gear, which gives it a little more power. Now to put it in high range, this gear pops out of here. So this big gear here is free rolling. It's not attached to anything anymore. So with that up, the medium-sized gear contacts this medium-sized gear, which gives it a faster speed and less power. So the thing is, to lock this gear to this shaft, this piece has to be locked into there. Now with that locked into there, there's these nice little supposed to be square edges on here. As you can see, they're all rounded a little bit. And in here is even worse. All those edges in there where these two hook together are all rounded. So the problem is, whenever there's lots of force on this, whenever it's driving, since they're rounded, it forces it away, and it tries to push on that snap ring, and the snap ring is not made to hold that side pressure. So what had happened was it wore out the snap ring came off, and that's why that gear was down in the bottom. And that's why it's jumping out of gear, because all that wear on those parts that lock together. I've actually seen this happen before. on an Arctic Cat Prowler 1000. Same exact thing. Just maybe that it doesn't go in far enough. Maybe that's why, which is the problem with the Arctic Cat. Just kind of the way it was designed, just not designed very well. And I'm guessing that's what's wrong with this one. Since it is kind of a no-name side-by-side, I think these are the kind of problems that you'll see. So anyway, really all this stuff is junk right now because the groove for the snap rings wore, small gear is wore, the big gear is wore inside. So really there's not much of this that's can be saved. And then even this gear here has a little bit of wear on it too on those points. So I wouldn't feel comfortable putting a lot of this stuff back into use because you just end up having the same problem again. So anyway, he's looking at a full transmission, I think. Probably would be the best way to go. Just get a whole transmission and drop it in.